Hey, welcome back everyone. So in this one, I'm going to show you a little bit of the perspective techniques that I generally use inside of Procreate to work through inking a panel. So we're going to work on this little guy right there. What is that? One, two, three, four, fourth one down really. And it's actually pretty detailed. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity. I already did the perspective on this one. So one of the things you got to keep in mind, at least at this current juncture, I believe, with Procreate, is that once you move the perspective guide, you got to do everything within that area, right, before you move it again. So it's not like Clip Studio, it has multiple. So to get to perspective guides, you go to the little wrench. What's that? That's a wrench, right? I'm not much of a mechanic. I'm an artist, so I don't know what that is. That's a wrench. And then you go to drawing guide, toggle that on, edit drawing guide, and you're going to get these little vanishing points. I've already moved them into place, but I'm going to move them out of place. So you're going to get something that's going to start with, let's see, you can tap on each one of these and delete them until you get to the last one. I guess you can delete the last one too. That's kind of weird. But then to create one, you would just tap with your finger on the screen. It's going to give you the first vanishing point, right? To get the second, you tap to the side. To get a third, the fourth, fifth, no, just three. But you can tap that one, delete it. So you see, you can add those and maneuver them. You get this blue line, which is your horizon line. So a 2-point is going to be on each side of this, like you saw I had it. I'm going to show you how I sort of find this, because this is always, I don't know, this is kind of tricky for each panel. You can also change the color by, tapping on each one of these and then maneuvering. You got to select it first and then maneuvering this, see that? And change the colored lines there. You can increase the thickness of the lines if you use these visually. I don't, but they're there. Yeah, isometric, symmetry, all sorts of fun stuff. I even turn on the 2D grid just when I'm drawing something. I find it helps me just do a better drawing without, I still flip the work, but it just helps a little bit. So anyways, back to this. The tricky part, so we're looking for, let me get out of here real quick and show you what we're looking for. And so we're looking for the lines that converge this way. Right, so if you were to trace that back with your mind, or I guess another way is you just take one of these lines, probably the better way, and bring it all the way back. You don't really know where the horizon line is going to be yet, so bring it all the way back to the edge. Ignore that horizon line there, because again, say you did this before that was active, right? You don't know where it's going to be, so you still have to trace these back. And that will eventually give you your horizon line. So I'll trace that back, but it's off the page, right? As they often are. Or they almost always are. I guess 1 point isn't, but for 2 points, almost always going to be off the page. If not, you get some really distorted perspective. So all I got down here, well, I guess I got this line. That's way up there. Okay, I don't know if this will help or not. It should, but this isn't really typically the way I do it. I just want to give you different ideas and ways that you can achieve this stuff. And really you should be doing this right here to all sorts of comic book panels that you view through various books that you like, and also photos that you take or grab from the internet. You should constantly draw through and get used to spotting where the vanishing points are, where the perspective is, where the horizon line is it a 3-point, all that stuff. You're not going to know it until you do a bunch of this. And at least I don't, I have to do a bunch of this to really wrap my head around it. So go back to drawing guide, edit drawing guide, see how close I might have been. Obviously I still have to maneuver it a bit. I'm going to go in between these two and I'm just going to kind of visualize where they would converge to. And then over here, you see that these converged up, which would be, that's a tilted horizon. I don't know if, maybe it is, I don't know. We'll find out. I didn't look at it this way before, so it's possible that it is. Now, the way you're going to check this is you're going to add a layer. So pretend that I just added this layer and I tapped on it and I clicked on Drawing Assist. It's obviously already on. And then once you do that, you can actually toggle this off if you want. It's up to you. I like to toggle it off, but usually once I get it into place. So I'm going to leave it on for now. But it is neat that you can turn that off so it's not so visually intrusive, even though it's not really that in your face anyways. So, but now what you do is you just start drawing on these. This is what I do. I start drawing on these lines, and then I realize, wow, I'm horribly off. Well, this one's kind of on. Oh, that's close. I'll do a 4-finger tap to delete or a 2-finger tap to undo. So it needs. So what I'm looking for is if I draw enough of these. That one, that's weird. Some of them feel like they're dead on. Let's grab this one for the pool area. That's dead on. That's pretty close. Feels like it could go up just a little bit. See how it went off from that little line right there? But it's weird because it didn't go off all the lines. So you got to be careful because some of this can just be maybe the artist was, flying through it and didn't rule every line. So you got to check enough of them to make sure you can sort of split the difference and find the balance. Also, be careful. The closer you get to the horizon line, the more it's going to want to snap to that line as another perspective or another snapping point. So just be aware of that. Sometimes you're pulling lines and you think that you're in perspective. You're actually going with the horizon. Well, on a 1 point, that's fine. You're going to have a lot of vertical and horizontal lines. But on a 2 point, you're going to have verticals like this, but everything else will converge to one of those 2 vanishing points. And that's it. There's no other. You're not going to have straight object. Well, let me take that back. I guess you could have a straight object as long as you want it to be in its own perspective. So, for instance, you could have a table or a chair that's tilted in more aligned with the viewer, but it's rare. You're not going to do that as much. And you see here, you don't see that at all. It's just there are, I guess, some instances where you can have an item that is just shifted in rotation in the scene. Sorry, I don't want to confuse you, but for now we're just going to use these 2 vanishing points. But as you can see, they're not there yet. So now what I do is I just look at. I'm going to do a 4-finger tap, get rid of all that. I'm going to take this one area right here and I'm going to say, okay, the bottom of this is actually pretty close, but it needs to go down to the right just a little bit. And that definitely needs to go down to the right. So what that means is that essentially, since there's a bigger gap here than there is here, it means the vanishing point has to come over to our left. Can't draw an arrow right now. So that's what it's got to do. I'll show you. So go to Edit Drawing Guide, zoom in here, the 2-finger pinch, pull that over and to the left, hit Done, zoom in a little bit more, try that again. Okay, still has to come over to the left a little more. So I'm going to bring that right into the panel now. That's closer. That's pretty darn close right there. I would say doable. Yeah, maybe even a little tiny bit more. But anyways, this is up to you how critical you want to be. I think that's pretty close. I think it's going to fall where it needs to. Let's get that other side now. So I feel like that's pretty good by itself. So I think we're there. So you see, it's not as hard as you might think. I mean, yeah, it could get even, it could get really critical, right? But also, that's another thing we got to be careful of with digital art. We don't want to zoom in too much. So I'm going to say this is good. And then now I'm going to go back here, toggle that off. Again, I don't like it to be in the way. And so what I do for most of the backgrounds here is I'll just put like 2 layers back to back. One will be an assisted layer, and I'll start with this. And the other will be for organic stuff, like the palm trees, the bushes, even organic drawn shapes. You'll see. So now what I do is just start, well, I got to be on this assisted one. Whoops. I'll just start pulling some of these lines. And I'll sort of grab the big shapes first. Some of it, if they're segmented, like, so for instance, these pillars, I'll put these lines right through the middle. I got to be really careful here because I'm close to that horizon and it will constantly throw a line out of perspective. So I got to be aware of that. So these ones, I'll just do something like that for now. I'll be honest, the pillars, I'm just going to make one and copy it. It's going to be so much faster, so I'll show you that here in a second. This walkway. It's probably good to throw the line past the panel border as well. You can always clean it up, so it's better than not doing that. But see this right here? See how that's really close? Or there's one in the middle right there. So you got to be careful of that. And then what's really odd is when you're off their perspective, it really makes you second guess what you're doing a bit. But we know that we're working in correct perspective here. So there's just going to be a little bit of fixing. I'm just going to have to fix where maybe they were, again, working kind of quick and let the ruler slide or whatever it is. There are times, though, that I will actually just let it be. Like if I really think that the artist, I don't know, that they meant for it to look a certain way, I don't want to step on that. So I'll just like ink over it, knowing it's out of perspective. And that's a tough one, but I think it depends. It depends on the shot. Some things look cool out of perspective. I don't think this would be one of them. I mean, you probably want some of that. I don't want to rule every one of these lines. I'm using these as more of a way to get some structure in there, but you can't overuse this because it will, I don't know, it just takes the life out of it. But these are pretty clean ruled lines, and this is a part of the story where, it's like a palace, right? It's beautiful. It's like our version of going to a casino or a all-inclusive hotel in Dominican or Cancun or something at this point. Oh, those are so nice. If you've never been, go. It's amazing. All right, so something like this, like this. Now, another thing you could do is if you're worried about the overlaps and the bunting of the lines and all that, just add a layer, set it to assist, throw the lines through it, and then erase them back. I don't think I need to do that yet in here, but it's always part of the process. Yeah, so this the pencil work here is by Fabio Simao, and man, just these are some cool shots. I really like this one. Again, it's making me want to go to Cancun or somewhere like it. Cozumel, that'd be cool. All right, so something like that. All right. I think this shape is something like that. I'm kind of having a tough time seeing what that one is. You got some windows here. With the windows, a lot of times I'll draw through like this, sort of like what I talked about with the pillars. Cut down like that, and then you just come back and erase the part in between. Or again, you can use layers and do this however you want to do it. Main thing is that you find some efficiency for, how you would construct this scene. Can't take you all day, right? It's just one panel. But you also want it to look as good as you can make it. So yeah, it's where efficiency and finding the right series of techniques is so important. You see I'm zooming in way too far, but I try to only do this on certain elements because I just have to constantly remind myself how big this panel really is. So when I zoom into a comic page, I think I talked about this in the last one. I don't know. No, I didn't, because it was more of a time lapse. But anyways, when I work on a comic page like this, I constantly check it right here. Well, what this is, I'm looking at my iPad set to landscape, right? So if I go to about right here, I'll even hold up a page of 11 by 17 paper and I'll go, okay, this is the size it would actually be. And then I'm like, wow, there's no way I would have drew that face like that because my pens are only so small, and even with my big, crazy looking magnifying glass thingy on my art table, I just can't get in that tight. So it sort of like makes you regulate as you go because, again, if not, you'll do this. You want to zoom in and get it all tight in every panel, every area, every nook and cranny, and that's just it's going to kill the time it takes you to do that. Good luck meeting deadlines like that. So now I'll jump back to the organic one. And I really should be naming these, but a lot of times I just get enough of a particular panel done and then condense it down. But with this, I'll just get in here and draw in some of the organic stuff. So I really like palm trees. I said this the other day to a friend. I was like, every place, palm trees make everything better. It's just the way it is. But it's mainly because I grew up with them. I grew up in Florida, so there's that nostalgia as well, and that feels like home kind of thing. But oddly enough, even though I grew up with these darn trees, I still had to pull reference to remember how to ink them, how to draw them. So obviously the sketch is really good by Fabio, but I changed the shapes just a little bit. I think part of it is like what you think you remember something to look like, or what you think you know something to look like, and then the way you actually draw it. So I'm obviously picking out the silhouette of it and adding in some angles, but there's always that fight of what you think you know going on. Okay, so just like that, I'll go around and pick out some shapes. Right, he's done a great job at putting everything in there nice and tight, and then get the base of the palm tree. I feel like it should be thinner up here though. I'm kind of wanting to like thin that out. I always feel guilty when I change things like this, but I just feel like even at this perspective, it would need to be that. I don't know. Just me making an executive decision here, I guess. And then you've got this zigzag texture to palm trees, right? Overlapping kind of shapes of bark. You can change the silhouette of it a little bit. Looks kind of cool. Which I don't want to get too off into that. You see, he just put the hatch lines to the side, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to bother anybody if I add this part. It's usually how I gauge most of what I do. Like, is this going to tick anybody off? If not, I'm doing it. And they'll tell me if it does. But no, the team over at Corvus Comics are awesome. Great bunch of guys and gals. I'll link to their content. Really want to support their books. I'm happy they brought me on to do the inks here. So you know me, I like to get out and push. Like I'm not somebody who's just gonna sit in the car. I'm gonna get out and push. And so, yeah, any project I'm on, I'm gonna try to help people get it out there. And these books are coming together. You got to see them with color. Just stunning. I can't wait to show you all that. But so the other thing I'll do here is I'll either white something out. A lot of times I like doing that. It's really cool if you think you're going to reuse the particular element. So if I was going to reuse this tree over here, I mean, there's a couple of them in there. I probably could. I don't think I will, but again, if you white this out, it sort of becomes this floating layer that you can maneuver more easily over to the side and stick it right over top of something else. But the other benefit is that if you kind of get in the habit of doing this part, then you still have all the lines you need for the background buildings, right? So I don't know, it's just there's certain elements where when you go to make a change, it just kind of works out for you. It's almost like how animators do it as well. They block a lot of this stuff in and use all these pieces. Yeah, so just something like that. And then for the shrubbery here, whatever this is, papyrus? I don't know what it is. I know there's a lot of papyrus over there. But finding some shapes. I mean, you see, he just put some lines like this, right? But I'm sure that's not what he wants. I mean, I could render it, I guess I could just render off these lines more like this. And that would work, It'd look like a real bushy kind of thing. I'll probably go for the shapes a little bit first. I could even bounce back and forth, so I can have like uh, the leaves get real thin, kind of crisscross them around. A lot of times I have to find the pattern I like, and I'm not really digging that. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this into time lapse, mainly because now it's just everything that I've talked about and just more of it. So like figuring out textures, creating something, maybe copying it over like you'll see me do here with the pillars. I do draw certain things in perspective as a reference point. So obviously that was the initial start of the entire scene, but I do it more in itemized areas as well. So to figure out a curve, I'll draw on a box and then I'll place the curve inside there. You'll see that shortly. But it really is now just a mix of bouncing things back and forth, organic to angular, texture to areas that aren't so filled in, so that you get a little bit of you got to allow the viewer's eye to rest. So like if you put texture everywhere, I love texture and I probably overdo it in a lot of ways, but I'm trying to at least be more aware of that it has more of an impact and an effect if you don't overuse it. If you place it everywhere, the viewer's eye just sort of zones out, like they don't know where to go. It kills the focal point, stuff like that. So that's another thing, is that you are trying to be aware of a focal point. I didn't mention much of that in this particular scene because it's almost like an establishing shot in the middle of the page of like, okay, this is just an area where we're at, take it all in. I could have probably made a focal point for the pool or something like that. Now, if there was a figure walking through this scene, then yes, I probably would have used it more like a distinctive focal point. But I'm going to go ahead and just let the rest of this play out. I'll add some audio. Remember too that as I'm inking these pages, I'm coming up with new brushes that I share in my brush packs. I'll link those in the description box below. And make sure to check out Corvus Comics and follow the work they're doing. It's amazing. You got a YouTube channel as well. I'll link all that in the description box below. Thanks so much for following this work. Let me know if you got any questions, and hope you enjoy the rest of the video.